it's Cherie. I'm going to try and do my first Stitch With Me video. I haven't done a Stitch With Me before, so I have a quick floss tube tag that I pulled up because I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to just chat, but we'll see how we go. This is my my own design, my Within Our Hearts. Oops, sorry, I bumped the camera. Design. I wanted to do a Stitch With Me because I was going to make a how I diagonal stitch video, and I was sort of going to try and do it set up like this, so I thought this might be good practice. It's probably going to be a quick one because Alex, the 6-month-old, is asleep, and it took me a while to get myself set up, and I had to make some phone calls and do some other stuff, so I've only just really started getting into a groove, and then I thought, why not do a Stitch With Me? So this is, like I said, my own design. It's called Within Our Hearts. It was inspired by Michelle, from Michelle Bendy. She shared a story, and I think I was just in an inspirational sort of mood, and this is the result. So I use a laying tool when using not always when I stitch do I use a laying tool, but I am with this particular chart. So this is, I'm pretty close, so that's my laying tool. Whoops, sorry, I bumped the camera again. Yeah, so I'm hoping to I'm pretty behind on where I wanted to be with this. I really wanted to have all of this sides. I've got a paragraph here, and then further down I have another paragraph, and I really wanted to be there by Sunday. It's Friday, and I'm obviously only on the second line of the first paragraph, so probably not going to make it, but that's okay. We do what we can. I'm using some Weeks Dye Works here. Oops. Dye Works Iris is really pretty. I'm a bit of a fan of purple. I'm actually a fan, you know how people have their favourite colours? I don't have a favourite colour. I like every colour, and that's the same with sort of designs in cross stitch. I guess I've got eclectic taste. I like it all. So that's a problem for our bank account, because there's generally something I can find in most artwork or designs that I like, and I don't necessarily mean I want to spend money on that or I need it for myself or anything like that, but there's something charming a lot of the time in nearly all the samplers I've seen. I can find something. Whoops, I did too many across. This is hard to do. This is hard to talk and stitch. I'm not used to doing this. So let's just do that. Oops, I'm very bumpy. Whoops, again. I need to work out my setup a bit better, I think, so that I can not bump stuff so much. So let's do the tag. make sure I've got my stitches correct this time. I think I do. This is the first time this letter, this D, lowercase d, has come up for me to actually stitch on here, so it's not like some of my O's and things, which I've done heaps of. So I probably picked a poor letter choice for the first stitch with me. So this is the Twinkle tag. This was posted on 6th of January 17. I'm not sure where to find all the tags, so I just did a search. And this came up. It's by Crafty Magpie. And it says, the first one, I didn't read these ahead, so I might not be able to do them all. It says, what was your first cross stitch? I don't specifically remember my first cross stitch. I think it would have been one of those little cutesy designs, like a little bear or a little duck. Those sort of free kits that you get in magazines, I think would have been my first design. I know I first did long stitch, not cross stitch. And that was a giant leopard. So I always wanted to start big. I've always liked big projects even then. But that wasn't cross stitch. So I think it was my boyfriend at the time. I went and stayed, because we were fairly serious, and I went and stayed with his parents, and him, met them, and they lived in the country. So we went up there. I check my back periodically, so I'm just going to check my back. Make sure I've got no knots. There's the kids' chairs and such. Sometimes I get little knots, and I just like to tease them out beforehand. So yeah, I don't remember what my first cross stitch was, but it would have been one of those little free ones out of a magazine. And I know I did some little Peter Rabbit ones that I made for my brother and sister, and I made them into little face cloths with a very poor sewing job. They were made with a lot of love, but I don't think they're probably still around, to be honest. So yeah, they were my first ones. How many needle minders do you have? That's a bit of an embarrassing question. I have too many. I don't know how many I have. I have quite a lot of Clay by Kim needle minders, and I have a few other ones. One of my favorites I don't have on hand, so I'm not going to show that, is actually a needle minder that was made with a photo. So it was a little photo of my daughter and my son that was turned into a magnet, turned into a needle minder. I don't have that on hand, so I'm not going to show that. I'm just starting a new thread. I know that's boring, and you can only see plain fabric at the moment because I have lots of spare fabric on this side with no stitching on it. So maybe I can do some of this with you so you've got something to look at. Yeah, so I'm not going to bother, I'm not going to show that, but I'll show a different needle minder. This is how I use my Weeks dye works. I cut it, I pull a strand off, and then I rehook it on like that. It's very close, isn't it? And then I get the new strands and I separate them. My phone just did an update, so I just want 2 strands. So I separate them out, just running my finger down to try and prevent any knotting. let it untwist. Once it's untwisted, I then actually separate these two strands again. Like that. Maybe I can zoom out a bit so you can see. There we go. Sorry. I separate these two strands. I let them dangle, you can't see that right now, and let them completely untwist. And then I sort of marry them up again. Excuse my dirty nail. Been running around doing stuff. Yeah. So, and then once that's all done, I can thread it. So, I get my needle threader, my needle. Trying to do this through the camera, and then it's hard to do. I should look over the camera instead of using it as my window. Push that through there and then thread it. Ugh, bumping again. There you go. And then I get this strand that I've partly used. In case it has quite a large variegation, I don't put it back on here because I might need to match ends up to keep variegation moving. So just as a matter of habit, I do that. So let me just check. Start a new thread. I've got my chart held by my needle minder to the front of my work, so I have to sort of check what I'm doing. I'm flipping it around. There we go. Zoom in again. I don't know if I'm breaking any etiquette here. Also don't really care. If you could, my needle minder. So here's my needle minder. I'll show you this one. This is what I'm using with this product. So this is Clay by Kim. These are my favourite. And it's got a rose on it, so I thought it was quite apt for this project. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you could stitch one project, what would it be? If I could stitch one project. That would be a toss-up. If I could only stitch that project in my entire life, I would probably, it would be a toss-up between 3 things. It would be a toss-up between a sampler, like a reproduction sampler, but a huge one, like bigger than any sampler that's come before, so that I could make it last for my lifetime, so that I'd always have something to stitch on. But if it wasn't that, I'd choose a super-sized Heaven and Earth, because again, that would take me many, many years and I'd get to stitch on that. And the last thing would be, I keep losing my needle. The last thing would be a chatelaine, because they're beautiful. And I'd also want to stitch a really large one so that it would last a long time, because I like stitching, and I would be sad if I finished something and that would be the only thing I could ever stitch. I'd have to just stitch it again. just to be able to stitch in different colours or something. Because that's what you could do too if you had a large sampler. You could move the motifs around, you could change the colours, you could do all of that. So maybe I would go with a really large sampler with lots of motifs. And you could switch it up between variegated threads and non-variegated threads and silks and cottons, and you could do all sorts of things. What other craft would you like to try? So I want to learn how to knit. I've learned how to crochet, but I would also like to learn how to knit. The reason I have learnt crochet is with small children, it's really easy to just have that one loose bit of yarn, not having lots of stitches sitting on a knitting needle. Because if something were to happen and I were to put that down and it was to be grabbed or someone climbed on it or it got pulled somehow, I would lose a lot of stitches off a knitting needle maybe. Whereas I've only got the one to worry about in crochet. But just counting. Yeah, I'd like to learn how to knit because you can make a lot more things, I think. Or there's more options on being able to get different looks. So yeah, that is something I would like to learn how to do. What is the longest project you have been working on? That would be my Heaven and Earth Christmas present stocking. I started that in 2014, so that's now 5 years old. In December it will be 5 years old. So that's quite a long time. It got put away for a number of years. My husband's in the Defence Force, so he was away and I was just really busy and I had no time to stitch. So yeah, that got put away for quite a while. But I'm hoping I might even be able to get it finished this year. And I say that every year, but I actually think it's achievable this year. I do need to focus on it. And this is currently my focus piece to finish. So once I get this finished, that will be my focus piece. So we'll see how we go and what life throws at me this year. There's a chicken tapping on one of our windows. He must want some food. I might have to go out and check that he's got some food. Or she, because she's an egg layer. What is the quickest project you have done? Those little free patterns would be the quickest projects I have done. But I've also done some small chatelaines, and if you worked out how many days I actually worked on them, they didn't take me that long. It was just I didn't work on them every day. So if I stitched consistently every day, I would be able to get a lot more done. But I don't. So this week I've only stitched one other day, and it's Friday. And that's just because it took me 3 hours to get the kids to sleep last night. So by the time I came out, it was after 8, and then I had to do other things to finish up the end of the day. And then it was basically time to go to bed. So I didn't do any stitching. I did a little bit of crochet, maybe 10 minutes worth. But that was all I did. What threads do you like to use? What threads do I like to use? I actually, again, like I said, I'm pretty easy to please. I like using, I'm not happy with that stitch right there. I like using most threads. I really like using variegated threads a lot, so over dyes. And let me just finish this off. Yeah, so I like using over dyed threads. I love stitching in silks, especially very variegated threads. But I also, don't mind using DMC at all. Like, DMC has pretty colours too. So yeah, I don't have, like, I'm not someone that likes gentle arts as opposed to Weeks Dye Works or Colour and Cotton or anything like that. I don't have a favourite yet. I like them all. So I'm just going to see if I can. That's better. Tease that stitch into place. Yeah, I like them all. Oh, I've got some counting to do now. Show us your Ort jar. I don't have an Ort jar. I have Orts. I have a little plastic Ziploc bag. I use a little tin when I'm out, a little tin that I got from Clay by Kim. So I'm just going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because of where the camera is, it's just a little bit more awkward. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. Flip. See. Yeah. So I don't have an Ort jar per se. I use a tin when I'm out, but again, that just ends up, once it's full, getting transferred to the little Ziploc bag. And then I have a little attachment on my lamp out here in our lounge room, and it has a little tray that I just put my scissors and needle threader and stuff in, which I'm using now, and it just has a little section, because it's broken into sections, that has all my Orts. So there's just a pile of all my Orts at the moment. Yeah, so I don't have an Ort jar per se. Something else I'm working on other than stitching, I don't have anything handy, and I'm not going to go get anything. Like I said, I didn't read this tag beforehand. It was a very spur of the moment decision to make this. So, move that Ort. So, yeah, I've got Orts on my project now. I am working on a blanket, and I'm almost finished the ball of yarn, or the skein of yarn that I'm up to. I'm crocheting it, so I need to work out exactly how I want to start the next colour, because I want to make sure I do it correctly. So yeah, that's where I'm up to on that. I have a feeling I just got a knot then. No, I'm good. I keep getting a view of the 4-year-olds and the 2-year-olds little lounge folding out chairs where they sit. Yeah. My least favourite thread to use is Kreinik. I will use it if I have to. Or actually, Kreinik, but I use Sulky, the same stuff that I've used for gridding here. I used that for stitching. I disliked that more. I don't like to stitch with that at all. It was awful. It kept knotting and just not laying correctly, and it was awful. So that's my least favorite thread, but it's not really, no one really charts in that. I was just adding it. Because I thought it would look pretty, but I'd rather stitch with Kreinik than that. What is the project you've hated working on the most? I don't think I've ever hated working on a project. I have gotten slightly frustrated with certain projects before, or I've made a mistake, or I've just been not in the right frame of mind to be stitching. But I've never hated a project before. I have always, everything that I've stitched I've enjoyed. So I'm really lucky in that instance. I've never gotten to the point where I've just hated something. Hate's such a strong emotion to feel about something that is not, I don't know. I don't think the hobby should draw out hate in you. If it does, then it's time to have a break, I think. I suppose switching projects is a break, but I don't know. Just never had something I've wanted to do that's brought me joy that has switched to hate. I think that's the whole tag. So that's 26 minutes. I guess that's not too bad for a stitch with me. It's been good. I've been really enjoying this purple. I had saved it for quite a while, and I had to do other sections. So I had to do this colour, and I was not going to do all of the words at once, but then I needed to use more than one skein of thread, and one of the skeins was this colour, and then the other one was a different dye-light, same technically colour, but it was this colour here, and there's the new colour going into that one there. So I wanted to finish all of that and all of the words in that colour before I started the next colour. So I finally started the next colour, which is this purple, and now I think I'll just do all the words because they're half done. So I may as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. So that's pretty fun. My last video that I uploaded was has a giveaway in it. So if you wanted to go watch it to enter into the giveaway, that would be kind of fun to do. You would win the Fox View chart plus a couple of things I made for the giveaway. So I made a scissor fob. I made it specifically for the giveaway, I made a couple of extras as well, and then a little bag and a needle minder as well. So that'll ship anywhere in the world if you're interested. You'll have to watch that floss tube though and comment on that one in order to win, and don't say giveaway in your comment either, because then I'll have to delete it and I want you to win. So yeah, this has been fun. I might try and do this more often. So maybe I can have like a Friday stitch with me party and make this more regular, and I might get better at it if I do that too. So thanks for joining me. It's always really fun to share with everyone, and hopefully we can just keep hanging out, because this was kind of fun. I'll probably work on my setup a little bit, and I might get better at talking while I stitch. So yeah, everyone have a great day and have a great time stitching. I don't think I've said that in a while. So see ya. Bye.